guys, Harrison here, and if you've been following me on social media lately, you would have noticed that I've got my hands on the new Google Pixel 2. I've had about a week to use it, and I've got a lot to say about it, so let's just jump straight into it. So starting with the actual design of the phone, and I really like it. You've got the two-tone design on the back, glass up the top, and then metal down for the rest of the phone, just like on some of Google's other products. So something to note is you're not actually touching metal when you're holding the Pixel 2. There's actually a plastic coating all over the back of the phone, and personally, I think it feels pretty nice, but it's just something to keep in mind. Also, as someone with pretty small hands, I really like how the Pixel 2 feels while I'm holding it. Everything feels nice and compact, and because it's only got a 5-inch screen, you're not gonna have to do that weird shimmy up and down the phone if you're trying to reach those top corners, like you do on some bigger phones. There's a fingerprint scanner on the back of the phone, right where your finger naturally rests, and I reckon that's the best spot to put it. And it's also really quick to recognize my finger and unlock. So unfortunately, what you're not going to find on the back of the phone or anywhere else is a headphone jack. Hashtag dongle life has officially come to the Google Pixel, and Google makes it even worse by not including a pair of USB-C headphones in the box. All they've got is this USB-C to headphone jack adapter, and honestly, you're probably going to end up losing that like I almost have. Even Apple can include a pair of lightning earpods into their new phones, so Google, why can't you have some USB-C earbuds in yours, And you know what's even funnier? In Australia, manufacturers actually have to include a pair of earbuds with their devices, so you know what Google did? They threw in these beauties, and guess what they've got? That's right, a 3.5mm audio jack. Thanks. So the lack of USB-C earbuds or just a headphone jack is pretty annoying, but what is good to see is that Google's kept the features of the Pixel 2 almost identical to those of the Pixel 2 XL, and that's really good because what some manufacturers are doing is making their bigger version more powerful than their smaller version, but Google hasn't done that. Speaking of features, the feature you've probably heard the most about is got to be the camera. And let me tell you, it is incredible. So the actual sensor is great, and when it's combined with Google's HDR Plus software and the Visual Core, which is an extra custom processor Google's included with their phones that literally just magically makes your photos better, sometimes the photos you get from this feel too good to be true. Seriously, I've had the Pixel 2 less than a week, and I'm pretty sure I've already taken more photos on it than I ever took on my old phone. And that's just because it's so easy to whip it out and grab a shot or two. I really do think that the whole camera experience is one of the Pixel 2's biggest strengths. Being able to double press the power button to almost instantly open up the camera, having the autofocus just snap onto the subject and then grabbing the shot, and all in a second or two happens pretty regularly on this phone, and it's one of the reasons I'm loving it more and more every day. There's some more camera stuff that I'll just go over briefly. So portrait mode works on the front-facing camera as well as the rear camera, and when it does work, it can produce some really nice results. There are still some issues though with edge detection, but hopefully that'll improve with a bit of time. I've noticed though that sometimes the camera can struggle to identify the subject of the shot. For instance, I've found if they're wearing a hat or if there's a bit of a shadow coming across their face, it can struggle sometimes. What's annoying though isn't that it struggles, but it's that if it can't find the subject properly, it won't tell you, and it'll end up just taking a ton of normal photos instead of those portrait mode photos, and it won't tell you, and you won't realize until you're looking back over those photos. In the 8.1 update, Google also added some AR stuff into the camera app. What this lets you do is add 3D objects directly into the environment around you through your phone. Currently, there are like some Star Wars and some Stranger Things stickers, and it's kind of cool for a while, but personally, I found that it got old pretty quickly and ended up just being sort of gimmicky. So that's it for the photos, but I do just want to talk a bit about video. Google's Magic Touch is here as well, and they combine electronic image stabilization with optical image stabilization, as well as probably some other tricks, and they all end up producing some really stable videos. Here are some examples, and none of them were easy scenarios, but it looks like the Pixel 2 handled them pretty easily. The Pixel 2 can also record high frame rate videos at either 120 or 240 FPS. At that frame rate, the video quality does take a bit of a dive, but I reckon the sacrifice in quality can be worth it sometimes for the pretty awesome slow-mo footage you're getting. So Google's been pushing the Google Assistant pretty hard lately, and on the Pixel 2, it's only a squeeze away. So honestly, before coming to the Pixel 2, I wasn't that big of a fan of the Google Assistant, but it's been growing on me on the Pixel 2. Honestly, just because it's so easy to access, I found myself using it more and more. And it's actually, I found good for asking things like, what's the weather? Like, what's on my calendar today? Or just like, questions I've got throughout the day, and it can search those up for me and chuck me back the answers. So that squeeze thing I mentioned before is actually a new feature on the Pixels this year, and it's something called Active Edge. And what it lets you do is actually squeeze the sides of your phone to launch the Google Assistant. It's actually a pretty cool feature they've got on the Pixels this year. It's just so easy to do while you're just holding the phone. All you've got to do is give it a little squeeze and it'll launch the Assistant. And this is what's been sort of prompting me to use the Assistant more and more, just because it's right there. It's so easy to do. It is kind of annoying though, because you can't remap it to anything else. All you can do is have it either turned on and squeeze to launch the Assistant, or have it turned completely off. And considering how much hate Samsung got for the Bixby button on their new phones, I feel like Google's gotten off pretty easy for doing pretty much the same thing. Something really cool though that Google's added into the Assistant on the Pixels this year is a thing called Google Lens. So you can access Google Lens either from within the Photos app or the Assistant itself, and basically what it'll do is scan through either the photo or whatever you tap on, and it'll try and pull information from it and identify what you've tapped on and link you to relevant web searches and information that it can pull from online. It has some hiccups, but it usually works pretty well, and it's actually really good at identifying things like dog breeds and different plants and flowers and stuff, and different foods, just to name a few. Another really cool little addition Google's added into the Pixel 2 is a thing called Now Playing. So basically the microphones on the Pixel 2 stay active even if the screen's off, and if they pick up a song that they recognise, they'll put a little message onto the lock screen with the song title as well as the artist, and then you can tap on that message to get a bit of information about the song, as well as a link to the music video. Don't worry, this all happens offline. There's actually a song sort of database on the Pixel 2, and it compares that database to what it's hearing now to see if it can recognise a song. It's a small addition to the Pixel 2, but I really like it. It's pretty good at grabbing songs that I'm listening to, and even though it hasn't been able to identify all of the songs, it's done a pretty good job at it, and when it has identified them, it's done it pretty well and pretty quickly. Alright, so that's it for the main points I had, but here's just some other things that I wanted to quickly mention. So one of the first things I noticed was actually how good the vibration motor on this phone feels. It feels really tight and snappy, just like on an iPhone, and things like unlocking the phone with the fingerprint reader and typing on the keyboard produce some really satisfying vibrations, and they just all add into that feeling of a really premium device. So I've been getting some really good battery life using this device, averaging around 5 to 6 hours of screen on time each day. I use it pretty heavily, but I've still got battery by the end of the day, and that's really impressive to see. Buy some USB-C cables. So Google only includes one USB-C to USB-C cable in the Pixel 2's box, and you literally can't use that cable to connect your phone to most devices really. You're not going to be able to connect it to wall outlets, most car chargers, even like your laptops and computers and stuff. So you're going to want to make sure that you invest in some USB-C to USB-A cables so that you can connect the Pixel 2 into some other accessories that you've got. I'll link a few down below, but you can also buy them directly from Google. So the Pixel 2 has fast charging built in, and even though it's not going to be as fast as, say, dash charging on the OnePlus devices, it's still a lot better than the standard 5-volt charging, and you're going to notice the difference pretty easily. And finally, just make sure that you update your phone as soon as you can. So I was getting sort of weird random reboots on Android 8.0, and updating to 8.1 fixed those for me, and also added in a new saturated mode for the display to make the colors pop a bit more. And it also enabled the visual caller in apps like Snapchat and Instagram, so picture quality in those pretty much magically goes up after updating to 8.1. So just to wrap up, the hardware on the Pixel 2 is incredible, but it's the software that Google's added in over the top that really makes it such an incredible device. The camera enhancements have given the Pixel 2 the title of Best Smartphone Camera.
The winner for Best Camera in a Smartphone is Google Pixel 2.
And they've also helped the Pixel 2 to create some incredibly stable video footage. Not to mention all the other little enhancements that Google's added in. This phone is the best that Google has to offer, but it does come with a price tag to match. $600 unlocked in the United States, or just under 1,000 Australian dollars for the base model, but in my opinion, it's worth it. So that rounds up this video. Thank you for watching. I'm gonna have more videos on the Pixel 2 coming out in the future, so make sure you stay subscribed for those. And also, don't forget to follow me on social media. If you've got any questions on the Pixel 2, leave those in the comments down below, and I'll catch ya in the next video.